We are about a week into the launch of Black Clover Mobile on the global side of the game, and I think now is an appropriate time to talk about what is coming next and what you guys want to save for. So right now we have the current summon with the current seasonal characters, and all of these characters are very, very good. Asta's good, Yami's good, Mimosa's good. I would say out of the three, Mimosa is the best because she has the least fall off in the later seasons, but there is a character that is better than every single one of these characters, better than every general pool character you can pull right now, better than the general pool characters that are coming up that you can pull that you're going to want to save for. So that is the purpose of today's video, to talk about what banners you guys are going to want to save for and what characters on those banners specifically are good. So over here on Twitter, thanks to Black Clover Mobile News, we have a banner schedule for global and when we can expect certain characters to come out. So sometime this week, as of right now, today is the 5th at the time of recording this, it says from the 3rd through the 10th, so very soon, we are going to get Eye of the Midnight Sun banners. We're going to get a banner for Licht and Rhea, and we're also going to get a banner for Veto and Fauna. I have played as some of these characters on the JP versions, and while they are okay, I would not say these characters are great, and this is like the easiest skip, I would say, considering what's coming next, because on the 19th of December, we have Season 2, or the Season 2 banner, and the Season 2 banner is going to feature the swimsuit Charmy, the swimsuit Noelle, and the swimsuit Gauche. Out of these three characters, Charmy and Gauche are okay, but this Noelle is literally a god tier character, the best character in the game. She's good all the way up till season 6 in JP and KR versions right now. She's still literally one of the best units with like no fall off. I'm not kidding when I say she is the most broken character that they introduced to the game. And so like every character they've introduced afterwards, they've tried to make broken, but they just haven't made them as broken as they made Noelle. She's absolutely ridiculous. So today we're going to take a look at all these characters on these banners, and we're going to go over their kits, and hopefully by the end of this you'll see just why Noelle is so freaking broken. Okay, so we're over here on the database. I'll put the database in the description if you guys want to see it. We're going to start with Fauna. This is a character I actually enjoyed using quite a bit. I, however, don't think she is that great. I thought she was going to be better than she was because she had lifesteal. I'm like, oh, she has lifesteal, she's going to be insane. But it wasn't that good. Okay, so for her primary skill, her skill 1, it's called Playful Salamander. It fires a magical fireball at an enemy, dealing damage, 60% to chance to inflict a burn on the enemy, dealing continuous damage for 2 turns. That continuous damage from the burn is not that much damage, okay? The burn is not that great. Burn has never been great in this game. It's something that still, to this day, needs a buff. Skill 2, Salamander's Whim. Salamander expels huge flames, dealing damage to all enemies. If an enemy is taking continuous damage from burn, meaning you might have used this skill first, attacks after granting a 50% life steal. You would think that would be good, but it's just, I don't know, it's not that great. It doesn't do as much as you think it would do. It's okay, but it's not great. This is the better of her skills, I would say. I really like that she has an AoE with this skill 2 and an AoE with her ultimate skill as well. So the fact that she has 2 AoEs makes her good, but like don't count on the lifesteal being as good as it makes it sound, because it's really not. And then for her special skill, attacks all enemies with a blaze of fire from the Salamander's Breath, dealing damage, grants increased all attack level 2 for 2 turns. So that's a pretty good buff to give to all your teammates, and it's fairly decent, but overall Fauna's kit isn't anything too crazy. We're not going to worry about the combined or united attacks, but her passive there, flavored damage dealt, plus 7%. So she just does extra damage with her enhanced passive, and then unique passive grants 15% increased damage dealt when HP is equal to 100% or higher, which once again, how often are you going to have HP 100% or higher? So it's just like the passives aren't great on her, but overall the lifesteal is okay. I mean, with the lifesteal you can get above 100% HP, but realistically it's not going to happen all that much. So Fauna's all right. She has 2 attack alls. That's her big gimmick, and I think that's what makes her okay as an attacker, but not specifically amazing. Okay, after that we have Licht. Licht's first skill is called Light Swords of Conviction. Throws a spiked light sword at an enemy, dealing damage. Attacks after granting increased crit rate level 3. That's pretty good. Increased crit rate is insane, but he only does it for himself with this skill. His second skill, swings a whip of light at an enemy, dealing damage. Attacks after granting increased crit rate level 2. Attacks after granting penetration level 2. Licht You probably are thinking, he was super annoying in the story if you made it to this point. I had trouble beating him. He must be really good, right? He's not as good as he sounds. He's decent. I would say he's the best of the four Midnight Sun characters. Well, no, not the best. Second best. Ria's the best. He's the second best of the 4 Midnight Sun characters, but he's still not that great. The crit rate up and the penetration is obviously very, very good though. And then for his special skill, swallows all enemies in an enormous ray of light, dealing damage to all enemies. Attacks after granting increased crit rate level 3. So he just has an insane amount of crit for himself, but that doesn't really help your team. He can be a really good attacker, but he doesn't really offer much to the team overall. For his unique passive, when HP is below 30%, grants immortality for 1 turn once per battle. So that's a pretty good unique passive, and that right there is what I would say sets Licht apart and actually makes him a fairly decent character, because he has just literally a turn where he can't die, which is very, very nice for your team, and it could make or break like an arena match where you're down to the last person on each team. So overall, Licht is decent, better than Fauna, but I don't think he is better than Noelle when we get to talking about her. She is still insanely good and just way, 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 way better. Next, we have Veto. Veto is not great at all. he's probably the worst. I think Fauna is actually better than Veto. So Veto, his first skill is called Savage Blow, unleashes a furious blow on an enemy dealing damage, inflicts disarm on an enemy for 2 turns. His second skill, Savage Onslaught, performs a rapid, unseeable flurry of attacks to deal damage to all enemies. If your HP is equal to 60% or lower, attacks after granting 50% lifesteal. So there's that lifesteal again. It's okay. For each fallen ally, attacks after granting 20% increased damage. So he's okay if your allies are dead, but I hate abilities that like rely on your allies being dead to actually do damage. He just doesn't do enough damage, I would say, if your allies aren't dead. And keep in mind, he is a defensive character, so it's kind of weird that they made him like all attack as a defensive character. It's weird the way his kit works. And then his special skill, Bear Claws, attacks with Beast Claws, dealing damage to an enemy, attacks after granting 70% lifesteal, and then grants 35% lifesteal when attacking an enemy inflicted with disarm. Okay, so you have to use your other skills before you're able to use his special skill to actually make full use of his special skill, which is another thing that limits Veto, whereas other characters are able to use their special skill turn 1 and make full use of it. So that's another reason that Veto isn't as good as the other characters, because you have to have them disarmed to get that extra 35% lifesteal. So keep that in mind as well. And then for his unique passive, it grants 15% Fortify for 1 turn upon using lifesteal. Nice, so he becomes tankier. Only applies to lifesteal gained through own skills. So if another ally gives you lifesteal, doesn't matter. Or a skill card gives you lifesteal, doesn't matter. And then his enhanced passive grants 7% reduced damage taken when attacked by a boss. I mean, that could be decent for like story mode. So I think Veto is an okay character when it comes to story or PvE. But as far as PvP goes, do not rely on this guy to be a defender. Mars is going to be far better. And there's plenty of other defenders out there who are actually far better than Veto. So as far as defenders go, he's just not it. He's not the character you want to be looking for. If you pulled him on either of these dual rate up banners, you have lost. And then last but not least, this is a character, I would say this is probably the second. This is the character you want to pull for besides Noelle. He is going to be one of the best possible characters you can pull in the upcoming banners. So if you wanted to pull on a banner, pull on his banner and hope that you get him as opposed to Licht, because him and Licht will be on the same banner. So his primary skill, skill 1, Copy Dark Magic Continuous Slash, continuously performs a dark slash dealing damage to all enemies. If self has a buff, performs an extra attack. So easy to get a buff, right? Dealing damage equal to 30% of self's attack and magic attack to an enemy. So if you increase your own attack or magic attack with gear, this guy can be insanely strong. His second skill, Copy Dark Magic Gale Slash, slashes an enemy with a blade enhanced with dark magic, dealing damage. Copies 2 of an enemy's buffs. So if you use this first, get 2 buffs from your enemy that you put on yourself, then you use this, you're sitting pretty. He's very, very good. Hopefully you can see that just from reading the skills, right? And then his special skill, Copy Dark Magic Dark Cloaked Lightless Slash. That is a mouthful. Casts powerful dark magic attack dealing damage to an enemy. If 2 or more active buffs are present, performs an extra attack on the enemy dealing 70% of attack and magic attack as damage. So yes, he's sort of similar to Veto, where you're not able to use his special skill until you have buffs, which you can get from the copy dark magic, but you can also get buffs in other ways because you're not limited. It doesn't say that you only have to have buffs from this character, so keep that in mind. And then attacks after granting 15% increased damage dealt for each active buff, which is insane as well. So he's just doing a ton of damage. This right here is the nuke. It's really, really good. And then for his special unique passive, grants HP recovery equal to 15% of max HP when a buff expires. So every time you lose a buff, you're gaining HP back. He heals, he nukes, he gets buffs. Like, he's good, guys. He's very, very good. And then for his enhanced passive, grants 2.5% increased attack when the buff expires. He gets extra attack as well if you have the enhanced passive when your buff goes away. So overall, I would say this guy, the best of the 4 Eye of the Midnight Sun characters. If you're going to pull for anyone, pull for him. But overall, these banners right here are the easiest bait / skip banners that you can go for. Don't summon on these because Noel is going to be coming very soon after. And just to reaffirm this to you guys, he is S+ right now on KR and JP in PvE. That is right now. They're on season 6. He has longevity. He's very good. When it comes to PvP, he might not hold up. He goes down to B tier. But Veto, he's B and C tier. Licht, he's A tier, so he's still okay, right? Like I said. Fauna, she is actually still S tier as a character for PvE, but then only A tier for PvP. So you can kind of base, like, if you want to pull for the character off that, but overall, I would say Rhea, very, very good. He can carry you through some content in the game. Now we get into the new seasonal characters for Season 2. It's so weird getting swimsuit characters during the winter months, but it's okay because global release was delayed, and I guess we're just trying to catch up now to JP, so maybe we can all be on the same page is what it seems like they're doing. I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, we have, you can see that Charmy currently is an A and S tier still for JP. So that's pretty good going into Season 6, considering she was a Season 2 release, that she is still S tier, but she is not the best character on this banner. So if you're going to save for anything, it's generally going to be the seasonal banners, right? Which I feel like should be fairly obvious. But let's take a look at why. Her first skill is called Cumulus. It is summons a massive fleecy clouds dealing damage to an enemy, grants the ally with the lowest HP continuous HP recovery equal to 6% of max HP for 2 turns. So that's pretty good. 45% chance to grant a recovered ally increased special points +1. Her second skill is called Shaved Ice. The Sheep's Cooks prepare shaved ice for all allies, granting them HP recovery. Grants all allies continuous HP recovery equal to 4.5% max HP for 2 turns. Applies Dispel to all allies. So she is an insanely good healer / support is what Charmy is. And if you don't have Mimosa, she is a solid option. I think if you have Mimosa still might technically be better at this point in global. But, you know, that's up to you to decide. And then we have the special skill, Barbecue Party. The Sheep Cooks prepare a barbecue for all allies, granting them HP recovery. Grants all allies continuous HP recovery equal to 10% of max HP for 2 turns. Grants all allies increased defense level 3 for 2 turns, which is very nice. And then 45% chance to grant all allies increased special points +1. Okay? And if you don't know what increased special points are, increases the special points that can be used for combined attacks and special skills. So it just lets you get your special skills faster, which is nice. All right, and then last but not least, the passives. Her passive here, when an ally turn ends, grants 3% of max HP as HP recovery to the ally with the lowest HP. So just extra recovery over time, which is very nice. And then unique passive grants 10% increased max HP to herself. So overall, continuous healing over time for basically your entire team. She is a very solid unit as a healer. But once again, I think Mimosa does similar things, plus has the revive, so I think Mimosa is slightly better, but that's my own personal opinion. Draw from this the own conclusions that you will. Next, we have Gauche. Gauche is a supporter type mage, and you can see that even now in Season 6, he is still A tier, but he is not S tier in anything, so he's just okay. This is probably the worst unit you can pull on this banner, but even then he's still an A tier unit right later on in the game, so don't be too upset. His primary skill, skill 1, is called Mirror Sun, and this shoots a beam of sunlight through a mirror at an enemy, dealing damage It grants all allies with HP equal to 80% or higher weapon enhancement for 1 turn. In order for this to be useful though, you do need to be going first, so that's one thing that kind of sucks about Ghosh. His second skill is called Mirror Burn, reflects sunlight at a designated ally, granting them a buff. Applies increased all attack level 3 to the ally for 2 turns. Has a 60% chance to grant an ally increased penetration level 2 for 2 turns, and grants an ally intense sunlight. Right, so increasing attack and increasing pen, I feel like we've seen this somewhere before, but now instead of doing it for themselves as a character, they're doing it for another character. So I mean, I guess it's okay because you can choose who you put it on and maybe make that character stronger. So he's a good supporter type mage, but like, I don't know. It's just not the greatest. And then his special skill is called Cute Marie is the best. Gains strength by looking at Cute Marie, granting all allies a buff. Uses 10% of your HP to grant all allies 30% fortify for 2 turns. So that sucks. And then grants all allies increased ACC. I don't know actually what that is. I'm brain farting it, guys. But anyways, grants all allies that for 2 turns. In the comments, just drop it down there in a comment. I'm brain farting it. And then grants all allies dot immunity for 2 turns as well. So very okay stuff. The worst part about it is that you use 10% of your HP to gain fortify, which is meh. And then for his passive skill, upon using skill 2, grants a random ally intense sunlight. Intense sunlight, what does it do? It increases your damage by 5%, and it cannot be removed, and it stacks up to 3 times. So that's okay. I think the limit on the stacks is what really makes it not as great as it could be. If it could be a higher stack amount, Ghosh could be a very good character. And then unique passive grants you HP recovery equal to 15% of your maximum HP when the duration of your buff ends. So I mean, that's okay, but like, it's not that great. I don't know. Ghosh just, he's a very mid character, and he's not all that great to me. But now let's talk about the literal god of Black Clover. You can see she is still S+ in both PvE and PvP, even now in Season 6, after they've introduced a ton of new characters. This is the character right here. If there was ever a character to save for, this is the character you guys want to save for. So Noelle, Swimsuit Edition. Beyond simping for her, right, her kit is actually freaking amazing. Her skill 1 is called Aqua Wave. It uses fast currents to create clouds of spray, dealing damage to all enemies. If you have a barrier, attacks after applying weapon enhancement level 1 to yourself. If you have the Blessing of Water, attacks after applying weapon enhancement level 2 to yourself, okay? So you're going to want to be using your skills on yourself, and then you're going to get extra weapon enhancement and do more damage, and she's just nuts, okay? Skill 2 is called Skill Healing. Grants all allies a buff using water magic. Grants a designated ally Blessing of Water, use it on herself, equal to 120% of magic attack for 2 turns. Grants all allies a barrier, equal to 100% of magic attack for 2 turns. Grants all allies 10% increased favor damage for 2 turns. If you don't know what increased favor damage is, it increases favor damage done based on the elemental wheel, so based on the elements. Okay, this is insanely good. Like really good. She increases her own magic attack. She's going to give barriers to your team, and she's going to grant all allies 10% increased damage, essentially. And then over here, if you've used this skill first, and then you go back and use skill 1, then you will get weapon enhancements as well, which is insane because that increases your damage done by 30 and 40% depending on the weapon enhancement. So it's insanely good. And then her special skill, you started it, summons a massive water drop that engulfs all enemies dealing damage, applies increased magic attack level 2 to yourself, and then attacks. Grants yourself increased magic attack level 2 for 2 turns, which is pretty dang good. That's just a lot of extra magic attack, right? Insanely good. But then it gets even better. Passive, at the start of the wave, grant yourself a barrier equal to 10% of damage taken for 2 turns. And then her unique passive applies 10% increased magic attack to yourself. She just does a ton of damage, guys. And the very last thing I wanted to point out, which is the most important thing, which is why I saved it for last, we talked about the Blessing of Water, putting it on herself to give yourself weapon enhancements. But the Blessing of Water, what does that itself actually do? The Blessing of Water is the most insane part of her kit. Creates a barrier that grants immunity to a fixed amount of damage and counterattacks upon being attacked. If your enemy fails to remove your barrier on their first attack, you will get to perform a counterattack. And let me just say, they fail a lot of times, and this is absolutely insane. The Blessing of Water is absolutely broken, and that is what's going to make Noelle so insanely good. She is an insane attacker. She protects your team. She does insane amounts of damage. She gives weapon enhancements. She is a PvP must, absolutely. If you don't have her in this upcoming season of PvP, you will absolutely be losing your matches. So these are the characters that are coming out in the game. You want to be saving for Noelle first, I would say Rhea second, and potentially like Fauna third. Maybe it's arguable between like Fauna and Charmy for third, but yeah. So Noelle first, Rhea second at the very least. Those are the characters you want to be saving for. Hopefully this helps you guys out a little bit. And if you guys enjoyed the video, please consider going down there, hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and leaving me some comments on the video about what you guys think of the characters and which characters you're going to be saving for or spending for. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.
Maybach music. Can anybody out there